It's my shit right here. Say what, that's my shit right here. Welcome back to another episode of Road to William. Today is Mae Jemison's birthday, the first Black woman to go into space. So we're gonna learn a little bit about her, and I'm gonna try and find and see if there's any documentaries or movies. But we're celebrating her birthday, how she paved the way with her life, with her knowledge, to get us past the grounds of Earth. Literally take us into space, explore the world at a different level, like where a lot of people don't get that opportunity to do that. So we're gonna learn about her. Make sure you hit that like button throughout the video. Hit that like button if you vibing with it. Don't be shy. Go ahead, leave a comment. How you enjoying the vid? Astronauts, should we look into other people? Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you've been here already, thank you for returning. And make sure you hit that share button. I see I got Whitney on today. Whitney. What's your favorite Whitney Houston song? Mine? It's not a lot of songs she's done that I don't like. I'm gonna just keep it above. How about that? I'm Your Baby Tonight. Her whole Christmas album, One Wish. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. Of all time. All right, don't get me started. Don't get me started. Okay. To Mae C. Jemison. Dr. Mae C. Jemison worked as a general practitioner in Los Angeles, California before becoming a Peace Corps medical officer for Sierra Leone and Liberia in West Africa. After returning to the United States, Dr. Jemison applied and was selected by NASA as an astronaut candidate in 1987 and became the first African American woman in space. That's stressing me out. I don't know. It looked cool, but it looked stressful for me. This was September 1992. Jemison graduated high school at the age of 16 with a 4-year National Achievement Scholarship. At Stanford University, she earned a BS in Chemical Engineering and a BA in African and Afro-American Studies. After graduation, Jemison moved to New York to attend Cornell University Medical College and completed her doctorate degree in medicine in 1981. We should just go through all of them honoring African Americans in space. I'll do one. We can do an astronaut series. Why not? That's cool. All right. Tell me if you're into space. I'm into space. I think it's dope. So much to explore. Go check out nasa.gov. Other Black people, highlight other Black people. I don't know, it's something about it. You don't see it often. So when you do, I just have to acknowledge. So we're going to continue that cycle.
Welcome to Black Renaissance, everyone. I'm your host, Kristen Ayers. We begin this show with a very special woman. Her name, Dr. Mae Jemison. She's the first African-American woman ever to voyage into outer space. Jemison was a crew member on the Space Shuttle Endeavour back in 1992. Since touching down, she's been working to help African-American, Latino children, and women reach the same heights through STEM. That's science, education, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I had the honor of meeting her at the Exploratorium when she was here in San Francisco earlier this week.
What I'm really excited about being here this week in the Bay Area is the fact that Bear is helping to unveil a program called Circle Labs over in Oakland, which is really about bringing STEM activities, science, technology, engineering, mathematics activities into neighborhoods where maybe the students don't get that in school, and also to expose them to different careers. So this whole partnership between Bear, Cal State, East Bay, as well as the East Bay Economic Council is really about how do we promote science literacy for all students? How do we start to change and facilitate science education? Why do we want to do that? It's because when you look at it, first of all, there are incredible jobs that are associated with science fields. People need to be science literate in order to be able to function throughout the day and in the world, and also so that we can actually solve problems better as a society.
What are we not doing right now to get young women and minorities interested in science, technology, and engineering and math? There is definitely a gap there. What can be done?
So I would tell you the gap is not in interest. The gap is in whether or not we develop their skills and talents. Here's something that's really interesting. Girls do as well or better than boys in science and math all the way through high school.
We never hear that.
But they do. But the difference is whether they decide they want to follow it as a career, right? Whether you talk about a technician career or four-year degree. And I think a lot of that has to do with the images we show them, whether or not those are girl jobs, right? And so we really have to start changing the exposure to what we do and what people can be. And that's part of the whole idea with STEM initiatives. The same thing with, African Americans and Latinos. How do we make sure that they're exposed to that they know that they can be all of this range of jobs, not only, physicians or astronauts, but there's just a myriad of jobs, geologists, geographers. There's so many things that can happen. I always like to say when people talk about science literacy, they get all nervous, right? But science literacy is just being able to read an article in the newspaper about the climate, about healthcare, and figure out how to vote on it.
Well, we're here at the Exploratorium. This is definitely a great place that's hands-on, where kids really get a chance to get in there and interact with some of the exhibits.
We have this incredible resource. It's called Children and Their Resilience and Their Desire to Explore the World Around them. We are born scientists. Looking at the bugs, the snails, why do I breathe, asking questions, trying experiments, all those kinds of things, right? We don't call them experiments, but you see kids dropping stuff and they're learning about the world around them. What we have to do is make sure we continue taking advantage of this really prodigious construct when they go into school. How to do that? By doing hands-on science, right? By hands-on education. You don't try to teach people to read by telling them about reading. They have to read, right? So how do you teach them about science without having them to do science? And then I would also go to parents. There's something where we're okay with saying, everybody can't do math and science, right? It's okay for us to say that. We would never feel okay saying you can't learn to read. It's okay not learning to read. I also think about when we're starting to look at girls, it's so much about socialization. You cannot explore if you have to keep your hair neat and your clothes nice and clean. How do you do mud pies and stay clean? How do you do all these things that let you explore the world around you if you can't get your clothes dirty, if you can't get your hands dirty? And I think that's part of what we have to look at. As a little girl growing up, I wanted to do all kinds of things. I knew I wanted to be a scientist, right? But I played with Barbie dolls, right? I wanted to be a professional dancer. I danced, did all of those things. But one of the things maybe people weren't thrilled with this, I didn't feel like I had to stay kept all the time, right? Because you can't do things like that. You can't even be an athlete. You can't be a dancer if you aren't willing to sweat. There's a movie coming out called Hidden Figures, which chronicles the work of African American women who are in the space program, who are fundamental for us winning the space race. Hidden Figures focuses in on three of them, and particularly Katherine Johnson.
Absolutely. And she speaks. Yes, sir, I do.
Which one?
Both. Geometry and speaking.
Think you can find me the Frenet frame for this data? Using the Graham-Schmidt?
Orthogonalization algorithm? Yes, sir. I prefer it over Euclidean coordinates.
But that also notes that there were women, African American women, Caucasian women, who were part of this incredible journey into space that we just left them out. In fact, Katherine Johnson was so good that John Glenn refused to fly until she verified the orbital calculations that the computer had made.
Wow.
If we had known that, how does it change our viewpoint? Right. So these were women who were also trained in historically Black colleges and universities in the 1950s and the 1940s, and they were fundamental to making things happen. We can find them. So here's the deal. When people say they can't find folks, they're full of it. and I'm going to just say that and put it out there. And point blank, a lot of tech companies will say, I don't understand how we get more girls into computer sciences. We can find them. It's just that we have to task ourselves to do it. It's not sufficient to say, oh, they didn't fall in my lap because I went to the same places I always went. Right now, I lead a project called 100-Year Starship, and it's about making sure that we have the capabilities for human travel beyond our solar system to another star within the next 100 years. I led the team that won the seed funding grant from DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. It's an independent organization, but our proposal title was called An Inclusive, Audacious Journey Transforms Life Here on Earth and Beyond. And I would tell you that this word inclusion being at the front meant inclusion across ethnicity, gender, and geography, also inclusion around disciplines, and how do we make sure that this is used to enhance life here on Earth. And I would tell you, this Geek Prize of the Year in 2011 may not have looked that way if I hadn't been there working on this, because it makes a difference who's involved. And we have people across the gamut who are working on this project, but it makes a difference who you have, how you apply things, how you look at problems, and how you move.
And I would argue, and I think you would too, that it makes it better the more inclusion you have. Not mincing any words. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Dr. Jemison. We really appreciate having you on today. An amazing woman with amazing ideas. It was a pleasure talking to Dr. Mae Jemison, and we thank the Exploratorium for having us there. The museum is teaming up with NASA next summer for the solar eclipse. It's a huge deal and a chance for you to actually be a scientist yourself and watch a full eclipse from this part of the world.
On August 21st in 2017, there's a total solar eclipse that begins in Oregon and moves all the way across the country.
As we continue to celebrate Black history, Dr. Mae Jemison is a first, but certainly not a last.
That's right. Our meteorologist Andrew Kozak joining us now to share what it was like to sit down with the first Black woman to travel into space. I can't wait to see the story.
It was incredible. Natasha Siafa, it's not every day you get to sit down with a pioneer and extraordinary fellow scientist. Dr. Mae Jemison has worn so many hats throughout her career, but she had, of course, to overcome many obstacles.
Ignition and liftoff of Endeavour.
Blasting off into deep space.
It's the first in a long line of African-American women.
The absolute thrill of going where so few have gone. But now so many follow the path paved by Dr. Mae Jemison, a pioneer.
We believe pursuing an extraordinary tomorrow builds a better world today.
But it wasn't an easy journey for the first African-American female astronaut. See, back when she was just Mae, it was a time when careers in the sciences weren't encouraged for girls, let alone Black girls.
You know, with girls, it's like, don't get your clothes dirty. How can you explore the world and not get your clothes dirty?
She challenged those notions. As a 6-year-old, she was determined to become a scientist and recalls her teacher asking if she meant a nurse.
I put my hands on my hip and I told the teacher, no, I mean a scientist.
I want to see organization.
In 2023, after an extraordinary career with NASA, she acknowledges the progress being made in education, but says there's still a long way to go, especially for women and minorities.
I'm worried about education because in some ways, I think our society does a lot of lip service to it, but we don't invest in it in the same way.
As we celebrate Black history, Dr. Jemison can now not only be considered a first in her field, but an inspiration to a new generation of space travel. With the upcoming Artemis mission set to launch in 2024, NASA will land its first female person of color on the moon.
We have the full representation of our society, so the first woman of color, the first woman in space, the first person of color, however they classify it, it means that we need to take advantage of our full range of talent.
Dr. Jemison emphasizes because achievements like that don't come easy, Black history should be honored year-round.
Understand that these things aren't just figures that you use for this time and you do your report and you go away. They're as much a part of our world as any other history.
And how about this for an accomplishment? Dr. Jemison is an official Lego. In 2017, she was included in the Women of NASA collector's set. This trailblazer has her hands in everything. A medical career, writing and reading.
Wait, speaking of Legos, let me know in the comments if y'all have seen the new Pharrell movie. He based it, is it his life through Legos? I don't know. Snoop Dogg's in it, a whole bunch of celebrities. He knows a bunch of celebrities. They are each other's friends in real life. So they're just, let's make a movie through Legos. Fuck it. Fuck it. So let me know if you've seen that movie yet. And should I see it?
For STEM speaking engagements all over the world, Dr. Jemison looks forward to seeing even more women and minorities exploring the world beyond and wouldn't completely rule out suiting back up if called upon.
And they could take older people too.
Well, Dr. Jemison also spoke about how important it is for Black girls to get involved with STEM at an early age. It's one of her many points that she shares in all her speeches. Natasha Siapa, it was incredible.
In the 60s, I lived on the south side of Chicago, and I was a young girl who loved to stare up at the stars. I imagined my...
I wonder if she knew my family. Like, I only say that because my mom and her family grew up on the south side of Chicago in the 60s. It's not far-fetched. That's not far-fetched. Shout out to the people in Chicago. I don't know if y'all follow me on IG, Road to William, but I'll be posting and on my music page, See Kid Forever. I I post this one lady, she customizes hats and she's based in Chicago and I want her to customize that. I'm gonna rock with her. But go check her out. I'm gonna try and find it added to this video, but Rose Chicago or something. But she getting out there and man, she be at all the events. She's like a vendor, I feel like at every event. Like so I say go support her. But anyway, let's keep going.
Going there, I studied all the things about the Apollo program. I knew what mission was going to take place when, what it was supposed to accomplish. I decided to go to medical school because I wanted to do something called biomedical engineering. While I was in medical school, I had the opportunity to go and work in a Cambodian refugee camp. I went on a study group in Cuba. I worked with the flying doctors in East Africa. But I still wanted to go into space, so I applied. Picked up the phone. I called down to Johnson Space Center. I said, I would like an application to be an astronaut. They didn't laugh. I turned in the application. There may be a certain naivete when I say, when I applied to the astronaut program, I didn't even think about the fact of whether I would be the first African-American woman in space or anything like that. It didn't even cross my, I wanted to go into space. I couldn't have cared if there had been 1,000 people in space before me or whether there had been none. I wanted to go. I thought it was important to take to space with me things that represented people who sometimes are not included. So I took a poster of Judith Jemison performing the dance cry. I took up a Bundu statue, which was for the Women's Society in West Africa. I took up a flag for the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, the oldest African-American women's sorority in the United States, because they hadn't been included. And I thought that was an important thing to do. For me, the experience was one that made me feel very connected with the universe. I felt my being was as much a part of this universe as any star, as any comet. It helped me to recognize that right now, we're in space. This Earth is part of that universe. That was my grand connection. And then I looked down and I saw Chicago. I thought about the little girl who had assumed she would go into space. What would my younger self have thought if she met me? And I think she would have been tickled.
That's today's video, just a glimpse of who she is, and go support her, whatever she got going on. She still be there up in space chilling. Go check her out. She's 68 years old. That's dope. I hope to see 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Go check out Macy Jemison. Go learn more about NASA. Try and get involved in NASA. Spread it around in your community. Give people more options. Include them in everything that we need in life. Space included. Yes, my shit right here. So I just my shit right here.